Hey guys, I'm just out sitting by the river tonight. I thought I'd do a little public service announcement here on water safety. It's sort of been a topic that's on my mind for the last little while. I know I talked to you guys a bit in my Fishing Tales episode 1 a bit about some things I keep in my boat for safety measures. But there's been a few incidents that happened over the summer that have really given me some food for thought, and I wanted to kind of pass those experiences along to you guys. One of them recently, a little boy drowned in the west end of Ottawa in a little place called Constance Bay. It's part of the Ottawa River where there's a sort of shallows there. There's a beach, there's a shallow area, and then there's a very swift, steep drop-off that happens all of a sudden. And unfortunately, he was out with some family, and no one realized there was a drop-off there, and he stepped off the edge and got swept into the swift currents of the Ottawa River. Unfortunately, I was in that area that day, and it was very, very tragic. Seeing all the rescue boats and citizens trying to help the boy. No one could get him in time. Watching the air ambulance go back and forth and land on the beach. It's just very upsetting, On that same day as well, we were just upstream, or rather downstream a bit, at a friend's house and having fun. It's a similar kind of setup with the river. There's a drop-off, which we knew about. And husband and I were out, doing a little bit of fishing and swimming. And, at one point we saw a gentleman out sort of where the drop-off, meets the shallow area there. And there's a gentleman there with an inner tube, and there was a swim platform. And he was there with two girls also. They were on a paddle boat out doing their thing. He was out on the inner tube. It was a really windy day that day. Huge gusts of wind, I think up to 20 to 40 kilometers an hour at times. There were definitely whitecaps on the river, so we were very careful and just sort of staying on the sandbar attached to the shore, obviously. But this gentleman, his inner tube got away from him. The wind caught it, and it started going away from him really quickly. And he thought it'd be a good idea to go get it. So we're looking at each other like, oh man, what is this guy doing? And so the gentleman went after it, and then realized quite quickly that the inner tube got away from him, and he couldn't catch it. So what happened was he got, I would say, maybe about 100 meters away from the inner tube, away from that swim dock, and then he just froze in the water, and husband and I were looking at each other like, is that guy okay? Like, he looks kind of strange. He just sort of stopped, and he wasn't trying to swim anymore. So at that point, we yelled to him and said, are you okay? And the gentleman gave an answer, well, I'm going to be okay. And both my husband and I looked at each other and said, that's not a good answer. And so I donned my life jacket. We started swimming frantically toward the gentleman because we realized he was struggling. We screamed at his girls, or the girls that he was with, to get in the paddle boat and get to him, because they weren't assessing the situation either. He wasn't saying really that he was in trouble. He just sort of froze. So they jumped in their paddle boat. They started going after the inner tube and were yelling, no, give him a flotation device. And so they went to him, gave him a flotation device. He was able to latch onto that. My husband made it to him first and sort of talked to him and said, are you okay? And he just sort of seemed kind of dazed, and basically we just had to reassure him that he was going to be okay, and that he says, how far am I away from this swim dock? And I said, don't worry about the inner tube, man. Like, your daughters are fine. The swim dock's maybe 100 meters. At that point, he actually started swimming again. So it just seemed like he needed some encouragement. So then he, on his own power, swam back to the swim dock. Another power boat came in, grabbed the inner tube, and went also to help as well. And he was safely taken to shore. So that's a situation too where, for water safety, it's a $15 plastic inner tube. Let it go. Do not swim out into, really swift currents, high wind conditions for something that's of little value. Your life is more valuable than that. And, if you're not a strong swimmer, don't swim past your means, and advisable to have a life jacket and a spotter with you. And also it reminded me as a bystander that, sometimes someone cannot tell you, they're in trouble. For example, he said, I'm going to be okay. Well, that's not a good answer. He was really in trouble. and really had got himself into a bad headspace. Really was frozen, like a deer in the headlights, couldn't decide to swim, what he should do. So we took action right away because, I mean, in that situation, it's better to go out there and realize, okay, the guy was totally fine and just have a chat with him or whatever, but then to leave him and know that he was in distress but couldn't communicate that, that would have been tragic and horrible. So that, made me think, certainly, make sure you're aware of your swimming skills. Don't go after something that gets away from you. I mean, if you dump a boat and the fishing tackle's gone, don't worry about it. Like, you can replace it. Your life is more valuable. Also, as a bystander, make sure that, you can ensure someone's okay. Even if they say they're fine, they may not actually be fine. You should really investigate and see what's going on. And certainly as a potential bystander or rescuer, don't get yourself into a bad situation either. That's another important consideration. If the water's cold, you're not a strong swimmer, you could end up being the one rescued. So quite often there is a second person that either dies trying to rescue someone, or gets treated for hypothermia or other things like that. So, better even just to call 911 water rescue if you're not sure what to do, because quite often the rescuer gets injured as well. Because when someone's drowning, they can actually push you under the water too in an effort to save themselves. It's not a conscious thing they do, but it's something that can happen. So that's something to be aware of as well. And then yesterday, I thought, all these summer water near tragedies and then near tragedies. I was actually on a walk along the river, and I saw a small vessel that was capsized. I couldn't determine really what it was. I was, on one side of a busy road, and these people were in the middle of a river. I could see two heads bobbing up and down. I could see they had life jackets on. Couldn't tell what happened there. Again, they were not signaling that they needed help, so I was waiting to cross the street so I could kind of yell and see what's going on. But again, they weren't doing anything. They were freezing. They were sort of with the vessel, which, very good. The vessel was, floating somewhat. They could hang on to that for support until they could get help. So as I was making across the street, I saw a powerboat actually racing up to them. I thought, great, there's someone that's got a boat, because I was on foot at the time, that's going to go and help them. And sure enough, the boat went up to them, and then they started frantically swimming toward the boat, and there was ropes being thrown so they could get into the boat. So again, people were in a situation, they gave no indication they were in trouble. There was no waving, there was no whistle blowing. They're just kind of bobbing up and down. It's very difficult too, from a distance, I couldn't really determine what was going on. And so before I could even rush across the busy road, I felt like Frogger there for a second, to yell to them to see what was going on. Thank goodness a powerboat was already on the way, that was maybe observing from shore, out having a drink on the dock or something, and then saw someone in distress and took action just to check on them, which is great. So again, too, if you're in a situation and you capsize, important to, if it's safe to do so, staying with the vessel, especially if it's floating, like a canoe or something, because then you have something to grab onto, and then maybe carrying, a whistle with you, maybe around your neck or in a pocket on a life jacket, so that you can blow a whistle, because sometimes it's really far to yell, so blowing a whistle to get help. So, yeah. Lots of pretty scary experiences lately, and tragedy there at Constance Bay, and I just wanted to, it's been on my mind, so I wanted to encourage everyone to be safer on the water, wear a life jacket, don't swim or go past your means, know the water you're swimming in, are there undertows, are there drop-offs, carry a whistle to signal for help, and also as a bystander, keep an eye out for your fellow human, and really determine if they need help. It's better to go out and check on them, see what's going on, versus to assume that everything's fine. Sometimes in a panic situation, you may be paralyzed to say that you're in trouble and don't say anything, or come up with a sort of I think I'll be fine kind of thing when you're really not. So it's better to assume someone may be in a bit of distress, go check on them. Sometimes it just needs, like that one gentleman, just a little bit of encouragement to get him out of a negative headspace, to get him to swim back to the dock, which he could, but he was just so panicked and tired, he couldn't figure out what to do, and he was being sort of swept away into the center of the Ottawa River in the channel there, which is a very dangerous place to be. Anyway, guys, that's my little tale for today. You guys have a good rest of your week and stay safe. Later.